Hello everybody, I am Kazim Gokhan Elgin from Istanbul Governorship Project Coordination Unit, and I want to give how to prepare the Istanbul city against earthquakes today. And we have a small video film. First of all, I want to express that Turkey is prone to mainly three types of disasters, natural disasters. Earthquakes, landslides and floods are the main type of disasters that Turkey faced on. But earthquakes is the main one because our 70% of the population living in seismically active areas, 66% of the country is located on active fault zones, and 75% of damaged buildings are due to earthquakes. This is a collapsed bridge after 1999 Marmara Earthquake. This is the road between our capital city Ankara to Istanbul, and this is closed after just earthquake. And this is the railroad that 5 meters shifted because of the fault line. And it is a fault line against development of the underdeveloped and developing countries. The green one, the graph, the green line is showing that the underdeveloped countries, each disaster type, you can lose your growth and improvement. But the developed countries, the purple one, they take lessons and they continue their sustainable growth. And let's look at summary data on disasters caused by natural hazards in Turkey. I want to express the total loss of lives, nearly 26,000 lives lost due to natural hazards, 90% of it coming from earthquakes. And our total loss over than 26 billion US dollars. And 1999 Marmara Earthquake, it was a really shock and big devastated earthquake, 7.4 Richter scale. 18,000 lives lost at that time, and 113,000 housing units and business premises were completely destroyed. Up to 675,000 people were forced to leave their homes, and 10 or 15 billion US dollar direct cost. And we had some lessons learned after Marmara earthquake. Communication failed, telephone lines were out of order in first 48 hours, and mobiles did not function either. First aid and rescue, lack of organization and coordination in search and rescue activities, chaotic situation, bureaucracy inhibiting efficiency and effectiveness, and insufficient logistical support, and unfortunately, voluntary efforts were not trained and organized. Losses and problems, even public buildings and infrastructure seriously damaged because of substandard buildings and infrastructure, and we had a serious resource gap, 10 or 15 billion US dollar as a direct cost, and at that time 5 or 7% of our GNP. That the last 10 years, our growth rate each year, 5 or 7%, that 1 year growth can be collapsed or demolished in each one natural disaster. And there was a paradigm shift in Turkey. In the past, we think that only fate, but now there are a lot of investigations, research done, and we know where the exact fault line, where is it, and where the flood basin is. And if you build your building on the fault line, when the time coming, and your building will collapse after the earthquake if you build on the fault line. So it's your choice, not fate. From reactive to proactive measures, from recovery to mitigation, and from crisis management to risk management, and your development at risk, and we want to achieve sustainable development. And let's come to Istanbul. Istanbul, 13 or 14 million people, 20% of the Turkish population live in Istanbul, and more than 40% of Turkish GNP is generated in the region. And we have a comparable seismic risk degree with San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Tokyo cities, and probability of occurrence of a large earthquake in 30 years is greater than 62%. And if we had a big earthquake, then 70,000 dead people, and our direct economic loss 50 billion US dollars. So that as a project coordination unit under the Istanbul governorship since 2006, we implemented Istanbul Seismic Risk Mitigation and Emergency Preparedness project with a joint portfolio of 1.5 billion euros. And in our phases, in the preparation stage, ownership is very important. Who owns the project? So Istanbul governorship owns the project, then everything was smooth. Prioritization is another important point. Which school or which hospital you will start, because you have a limited budget. Budget allocation is another important point in DRR activities, because generally it is not allocated so that we are developing countries, so we have another priority investments. Comprehensive approach and risk reduction strategy is another important point that we focus on while we was preparing the project. Project organization in the phase 2 in 2006 is another important point. The development of the project team with the talented and experienced people. And we had a steering committee managed by the Istanbul governor, and from central and local governments there are members, and the collective mind is put on our decisions. Implementation is another important point during the over than 9 years. Socially acceptable and human-oriented, you should keep in mind, because, for example, if you retrofit one school, 1,000 or more than this number, the students go to another school. So you have to keep in mind how you keep and as a guide them, how can they encounter the problems as a physical or psychological problems they can face on. And technical feasibility and harmony with international standards, appropriate financial and economic solutions, working with multi-stakeholders is another important point we achieved in the implementation of the ISMEP project. And from maybe 3 years before, experience and knowledge sharing is going through in ISMEP project with different countries. And we have 3 subcomponents that I want to show a very small video to you.
Istanbul, one of Europe's and the world's highest in terms of population density, is one of the richest cities in the economic and social-cultural aspects. Istanbul, a city of civilization, which bears the title of being the only city that connects Europe to Asia, has witnessed many earthquakes throughout history which resulted unfavorably. The possibility of an earthquake in Istanbul, with its current tissue structure, will not be overcome as easily as before. Unless precautions are taken, losses of lives, properties, and financial assets can be very high. So, since 2006, IPCU have been serving the public to reduce the risk of earthquake disasters before, during, and after the necessary studies for the establishment and for Istanbul. Scope IPCU is conducted by ISMEP project. The multifaceted and holistic approach to individuals and institutions aim to improve the preparation of disaster management capacity. These teams have contributed to receive full marks on many platforms for immediate establishment of communication and information technology to provide services at international standards of first responder institutions and organizations to provide all the equipment, development of systems needed. To provide services that will be used by both sides of Istanbul, Afad Hastal and Akferat command centers have been built fully equipped control centers and provided a significant increase in capacity in disaster management. A total of 1,175 available public buildings, including hospitals, schools and dormitories, will be used primarily as a priority after the disaster. Buildings have been and will be retrofitted against earthquakes, assessing seismic risk, while those which cannot be retrofitted or rebuilt will be demolished. Each of these buildings is being individually designed by expert teams of architects and engineers with high consideration of energy, efficiency and earthquake resistance. Our efforts to strengthen buildings have spread to all districts of Istanbul, and we have so far reached 800 schools which were assured to close by the year 2015. So that close to 1.5 million children can go to school in modern, spacious and safe surroundings. IPCU is also providing a sensitive approach in its valuable contribution to the health sector in reconstructing Istanbul's well-known Okmeydana Education and Research Hospital, Göztepe Training and Research Hospital, Kartal Lütfi Kırdar Training and Research Hospital, and Ümraniye Maternity and Children's Hospital, earthquake resistant. These hospitals were designed using a green building and smart systems concept, so that even in earthquakes the base isolation system can be applied during and after, and will be able to maintain uninterrupted service. By decreasing the horizontal force with seismic isolation system devices and equipment, they can be used safely during earthquakes. IPCU has set an example to all stakeholders in this direction, with their retrofitting and reconstruction activities within the scope of using the latest technological products and methods. We, IPCU, have taken responsibility to protect our historic heritage by making these buildings disaster resistant for the sake of future generations. Safe City, Safe Life motto started out with IPCU in 2006 and has reached about 800,000 people through training. With more than 245,000 volunteer ambassadors, it has raised awareness of people in Istanbul about a possible earthquake, thereby increasing the capacity of disaster-resilient communities. We IPCU, Istanbul, continue our work, without interval, in preparation for a potential disaster. And we continue to work for Istanbul. We guarantee the future of Istanbul with this vision. We are the Governorship of Istanbul and Istanbul Project Coordination Unit. We are IPCU.
Yes, thank you very much. And we can see that also in 29 countries, 50 events, workshops or seminars, conferences that we share our knowledge and experience, and all invited also to Istanbul to see the actual work as a retrofitting, reconstruction or disaster management capacity, how we enhance or how we developed our project, that we can easily share our experience with you also. That our one aim is to establish a center of excellence. We owe the world to share our experience with other countries facing the same challenges. Therefore, we propose to establish a center of excellence on disaster risk reduction and preparedness. And this center main functions will be thematic leadership, normative guidance, thematic support, and learning opportunities to share all related experts, academicians, and the others like you. And thank you very much. Our motto is, we are strengthening our future. Thank you for your attention.